Even when I used to work out all the time, when I used to work out, when I used to work out.
Ever had protein powder? Yeah, I used to have it. When I used to work out, I used to take protein powders.
I myself, I jerk off at least twice a day. Wow. Once in the morning, right after I work out, and then once right after lunch.
Before I get started, I know I said I wouldn't be as regular as some others, but I have a lengthy business trip coming up, so it'll be at least a week before I can post anything after this. Well, at least probably. Anyway, after seeing some incredible support, at least well beyond what I was expecting, I wanted to get another video out before the break. Big ups to SnortHogan for the clip. Let's go.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
SnortHogan. Drip.
Snort.
I got the drip. Go. Do I get to write off games that I buy? So basically anything that I spend that's towards business purposes.
Phil counts his DoorDash as his business expense. You cannot change my mind.
All right. I categorize all of that in my financial stuff. All right. And I give that to my tax guy, my tax attorney / tax preparer. And I say, here's what I spent on internet. Here's what I spent on electricity for the house. Here's what I spent on the cost of games. Here's what I spent on game subscriptions. Here's a yada, yada, yada. You divvy it all out. And as a business owner as well, there's other things too that, I don't know 100%. I'm not a tax guy, so never take what I say on a stream as like tax advice. I have no idea.
So you're willing to concede you're ignorant in taxes, and therefore let someone who specializes in taxes tell you about them. But when RG Beef tells you about bitrate and corrects your incorrect notions about bitrate being a network specialist, you chastise him, tell him he doesn't know what he's talking about, and ban him. Metal.
But for what I'm to understand, there's certain amounts of everything that can be counted as a business expense or tax write-off. And then there's certain amounts that can't be. I don't know. I don't know the tax laws. Okay, that's why I pay a tax guy to do my taxes for me.
Come now, Phil. Be honest. You don't pay your tax specialist. Your dents do.
So every year, I sit down and I gather all of that data. All right, all the financial data, how much I made from various sources, where the money went, all of that. And it's all split up into all this very, very detailed spreadsheet. And that goes to the tax preparers. And
Phil, what you just described is exactly what every detractor in the history of fucking ever has wanted to see. Blot out account numbers and emails, sanitize it however you must, but with all the controversy surrounding your dumbass purchase decisions, showing how much you spent on the business would go miles to garner good faith. Well, if you were spending responsibly. I mean, if you weren't spending responsibly, you'd want to hide that like it... Oh.
They, based off of that data, they figure out what's considered a tax write-off and what's not. For example, for what I'm going to understand, as long as this room is used only for business, which it is, I don't do anything else in this room besides business. Like,
if my girlfriend ever were to catch me... how shall we say, May 1sting? I'm just going to tell her I was conducting business.
It's every component in this room is for my streams. That's it. So this is considered the business room or office of the house, and that, I guess, becomes some kind of a thing, a component on the taxes for a write-off. I don't know. Again, this is not tax advice. This is just my very basic, limited understanding of how it works, okay? So if I buy something that's for the business, that's going to be led to something that's related to this business, yes, that's considered like part of the whole tax write-off deal.
Okay, when I made the joke about claiming DoorDash on his taxes, I was joking and had no idea he was going to say that. But I've watched enough Phil now, I'd put a fair chunk of money that he claims his alcohol, food, phone, even though it won't work as a hotspot, guys, and even cat food as business supplies. Which, whatever, man, you do you. But still, given the title of Snort's video, as I said, I haven't watched it all the way through, I'm expecting you to go high and mighty about how ethical you are. And if you do, I mean, I guess it's expected, but still, it's scummy as fuck.
So, when I first became an interactive streamer in 2017, I sat down with my tax guy and I said, so my income's going to be very different now. Because instead of it being based on just getting paid ad revenue like royalty payments from YouTube, I'm going to have all this income coming in from live viewers.
Okay, this has always bothered me, and who knows, maybe I can get with Steve of the Dead. Shout out to Steve, and that being said, to discuss this. Phil constantly talks about providing a service, and that he would think that reciprocation, e.g. dent tips, would come in if people are enjoying his stream. Here's the problem with what you think, Phil. You have expectations of tips, and you should have no expectations of tips at all, because the tip or income should be derived if the customer thinks your service merits it. Support is never an expectation, and thinking that it is, in my untrained opinion, is grade A narcissism. You want to know a great example of doing this correctly? PBS. PBS, for those of you who don't know, is a television channel called the Public Broadcasting System. They literally run off of donations. But to Phil's dumbass point from, a few weeks back when he was doing the suggestion box, they don't beg on an hourly basis. Sure, they run adverts that say these programs are made possible by, they list their mega sponsors, and then they finish with, and viewers like you, to round out the smaller contributions. They do that, once every 30, 45 minutes. But here's the rub, Chief. They adapt their programming or shows to what the donors want without chastising them. They don't shame their audience for having slow nights or slow shows, or make an advertisement saying, since no one is donating, we're canceling this show. If you want it back, pay us. That's how it's supposed to be done, Phil. So what's my point? Why are you going to your tax guy and saying the bulk of your money is coming from donations? Yes, you should hope that people would want to support you, but to say you know that? You're letting the mask slip, my boy.
I'm going to have, at that point I was on Twitch, so I said, I'm going to have this income from people who are like subscribers. I'm going to have income from tips and everything. I said, how does it work? And what he told me basically was very different from, I think, how everyone else does it. I feel like I probably end up paying more taxes than most people, and here's why. He says, even though technically people call it, some people will call them donations, some people will call them tips, that's just income for you. That's just base level income, okay? Even though people might want to categorize it differently to basically get out of paying taxes, you don't want to do that. This is what you got to do. Literally every dollar that you make, you need to categorize as income, real income. Not, it's a tip, so it's categorized differently. It's a donation, so it's categorized differently. He says, no, it's all income for you.
I Got 20 says that that's not how it happened at all. I bet Phil went to his tax guy expecting to pay no taxes on the tips because it wasn't itemized revenue, and said, smugly, I might add, I've read that I don't have to claim this as income. To which his tax specialist, the poor son of a bitch for having Phil as a client, then said, you absolute dumbass, we barely got through a bankruptcy and now you want to poke the bear of the IRS? Are you regarded? And I know that's speculation, but I just can't see the guy going to anyone for a service without having some dumbass preconceived notion about it. But whatever, I'll try to steer clear from speculation from now on.
And that way, you'll claim it all, you'll always be reporting the correct income to the government, and you'll pay taxes properly. Because what happens with a lot of people who open a business and don't categorize properly is that all of a sudden they'll get hit, guess what? You found out all these years you've been doing your taxes wrong because you've been misappropriating income in a way, and then boom, you're screwed. So I would not be surprised, okay? I would not be surprised whatsoever if there are YouTubers and streamers out there who say, my tips are not real income. That's like a tip that's categorized as a tip from a waiter or waitress or a bartender, right? And that should be taxed differently.
I'm sorry, am I losing my mind? Hasn't Phil literally given that exact analogy for his tips in the past?
And I would not be surprised. Jasper's digging in my closet. I would not be surprised if there's people who go out there and they go, every donation is completely non-taxable. I'm serious. There's probably people out there who think that. It's completely wrong. According to my tax guy, he's like, no, you absolutely need to be claiming every single piece of income and paying taxes on what's appropriate because you don't want to have that stuff come back to bite you later. It could ruin your life. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. I would rather pay everything properly, even if it means that things are tight and everything. I'd rather do it right than not. And what ended up happening was for years during that whole process where I was having my bankruptcy, I wasn't paying stuff properly. I couldn't. I was always filing my taxes correctly. I always said, here's what I made and everything. I just couldn't afford to pay it because I was in so much debt, and I was trying to pay minimum payments on everything and make ends meet. So that's why I'm in the situation I'm in today, where I've got all these back taxes that I'm still trying to pay because I couldn't pay them back then. Now I can pay all my taxes, but I'm also paying tons of back taxes all the time. That's going to take me years, probably decades, no exaggeration, to pay off what I owe for the years I wasn't paying. But I always filed my taxes properly.
So what, Phil? You want a pat on the back for being a good boy? You want a cookie? Man, you really retconned what happened there, or at least minimized the fuck out of it. You said you were unable to pay taxes because you were trying to pay all these minimum payments, blah, 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 and then you just cut that off. Phil, the minimum payments, you got, 13 credit cards and maxed them out. You bought a BMW and then didn't ever change the oil. Every problem you have financially is caused directly by you. How are you not seeing this? And the direct correlation to your current financial situation, e.g. sweaty man pulls. Also, you aren't to be commended for following the law. It's something you're supposed to do.
How little do I drive my car? Do I have car insurance? Absolutely. Yeah, I have car insurance for both me and my wife. We pay it every month. So, I mean, everything is kosher, but that's why life is so expensive. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like when there's people out there who are like, oh, I don't get how it is that, you know, when your YouTube payment comes in every month, you say it goes right out the door. Yeah, you have no idea how expensive, you know, health insurance, car insurance, homeowners insurance, the mortgage, the car payment, this, that. Literally, the money comes in and goes right back out.
Pressing next to doubt, dude. Sure, you have expenses may be a factual statement, but mortgages don't fluctuate month by month, or insurance, or car payments, and utilities have a max fluctuation of what, $100, $200 at the absolute worst? So again, yeah, people are doubting that you use all the money for recurring monthly expenses because of how wild the variance of your income is, and your refusal to show your goddamn monthly expenses. Additionally, you have no idea, or you tell the audience they have no idea. I thought you weren't a children's entertainer. Shouldn't literally all your dents know about, you know, life expenditures?
That's because I'm doing everything right, and that's why these things have always been so tight. I'm not cutting corners. I'm not trying to mess around at all, and that's why I probably, like I said, I'm very curious if a study was done to find out how many YouTubers and streamers have actually done their income classifications correctly over the last decade. Because there's so many people who I guarantee said, oh, it's a tip, it's categorized differently. And according to, you know, my tax authority, that's wrong. You can't do it that way. You know, how many people said, oh, it's a donation, so I don't have to pay, yada, yada. And it's bullshit. You should have been doing it all along. You know, I'm very curious about that.
Why do you care, dude? You do you. What comes from you learning that you're doing it right and someone else is doing it wrong? I'm sure I'll talk about this theory more in another video, but I'll give the cliff notes. I've had this theory forever. Phil says he doesn't want the attention. He says he's happy being the little guy. But then he grandstands every little thing. His joystick he bought, his food he devours in front of his dents, his alcohol, and of course he tries to grandstand his gaming skill. And of course if he can't grandstand his gaming skill, it's not his fault, it's the game's fault, it's lag's fault. But why do all this? He's seeking envy. He says he doesn't care what people like Keem or Boogie do, but I promise you, he wants Keem to envy him. He wants Boogie to envy him. It's why that smug look comes on his face when he shows or tells you about something that he has that you don't. And that's the reason for his curiosity into the taxes of others. He wants people to think, I want to be like Phil. I want to have my taxes in order like Phil. Thank God for Phil.
And by the way, no, I'm not saying in any way that I think that everyone else is getting away with stuff. I'm just saying, like, my mistakes are my own. I overspent when I moved out here. It's my fault. I massively overspent money, expecting I was going to continue to make the amount of money that I did when I moved out here, and I didn't. My money went right down the tubes within 2 to 3 years of me moving out here 10 years ago. And that's why I got into an awful financial situation. I had overspent and I had no way to pay off all that stuff. The interest kept accruing horribly, exponentially. You know, my mistakes, right?
Never let it be said I don't recognize something good DSP did. This is accountability. This is shocking to me. He's taking accountability. I hope I'm wrong, but I have this pit in my stomach telling me we're about to get a huge but followed by an excuse.
But
God damn it.
it just sucks that, I don't know, that, like, it seems like I'm paying for this forever, too. Like, I made my mistakes. I'm trying to fix them and pay them back and everything. And I don't know. It just seems like every year I pay. It's like, okay, so what you owe went down to a tiny amount. It's like, oh, good. I paid all year, and what I owe went down a tiny amount because of the interest and late and fees and everything that's associated with it. It's like, damn, I'll be paying this for, like, my life. Like, no exaggeration. I owe an amount that basically I don't know how I would ever pay it off unless I get to do, like, a big, serious financial refinancing of my house or something, which I wanted to do and I can't do now because the economy is so bad.
Okay, still being accountable, but this smells like a woe is me story to try and loosen wallets, which feels so disgusting to me. In terms of interest, fees, and penalties, Phil, these are called consequences. You have to pay them. I guess I'm starting to miss the point of this. You bragged about your taxes, and now we're complaining about the economy. I don't know. Let's listen on.
You know, I'm kind of stuck where I am right now for a long time, probably. Until interest rates go way down again to where they were when I got my house 10 years ago, which could be years now because of how bad it's gotten. I don't even have, like, an option to do anything. I'm just kind of stuck coasting where I am, you know? I have no aspirations that this channel or the React channel or this new throwback channel are going to blow up in popularity and all of a sudden I'm going to double my income and now things are so much better. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
So this is really pushing the needle towards pay my shit off for me, please, more than here's information about my life. It's the equivalent of a grade schooler seeing you pull out a pack of gum, stick the pack back in your pocket, and then when the grade schooler comes and says something to you, it's something like, man, gum sure sounds good right about now.
No, there's no way I can get free healthcare from the government. Are you crazy? With the amount, you know, as a YouTuber and the income that I bring in, there's no way.
Complain that you don't make enough money. Tell your audience you make too much money. Pick both.
No. Dr. Oink says, could Jasper get free healthcare? No, in fact, pet care is a lot of times just as expensive as human care. Seriously, I mean that too. Like right now, if I were to take Jasper to the vet, they'd be like, well, you don't have an appointment 4 months out. Well, he's sick. Okay, well, sit in your car for 7 hours. We'll bring him in for a minute to see if it's life or death. And if it's not, sit in your car for 7 hours.
Damn, that sucks, Phil. If only there was some way to detect problems from an early onset. Some type of test that could be performed. Perhaps a sample of blood could be taken. Hashtag justice for Jasper.
Then bring him in after 7 hours when we have an opening in the day, and we'll treat him. So then you bring him in, they treat him after sitting in your car for 7 hours. And then, oh, by the way, they tell you can't leave. If you leave, you lose your spot. You have to sit in the car for 7 hours. I'm not shitting you. I was told this by a vet about 2-3 years ago. So then you bring him in, you get him treated, and then when you leave, they say, okay, here's your bill, $700. But you treated him for 5 minutes, $700. Oh, thanks.
Phil, there's an old story about a massive cruise ship that broke down. No one could figure out how to make it work. They called the best guy in the biz who walked around the ship for 10 minutes, got out a small hammer, and hit one spot on the ship. The ship immediately roared to life, and the bill came, and it was $50,000. $50,000, the company exclaimed. All you did was walk around the ship and hit a spot. We need an itemized invoice. The man provided a 2-line invoice. Item 1, hitting the spot, $5. Item 2, knowing where to hit, $49,995. You see, Phil, it's the skill set you're paying for, you dunce. The education they had to get wasn't cheap. The skill set is specialized. Yeah, you're gonna pay for that.
Problem is, in the United States, healthcare is a profitable industry. It's not meant to be taking care of the populace, taking care of pets, taking care of anyone. It's about making money. They've turned life or death into profit. And because of that, people just accept it. Well, I gotta live, so I guess I gotta pay.
Jesus Christ, Phil, that's quite the soapbox you stand on while knowing nothing about the complexities of the medical field or the risks or anything else about it, but just complain away because that's the easy thing to do. I mean, I don't hear you offering up any new ideas besides the implication of it should be free. And also, what's wrong with the healthcare workers wanting to make money? Are they supposed to just work for the jolly of it? Are they supposed to just ask for tips and donations as reciprocation for their work? Anyway, that's going to do it for this one. I've really been enjoying making these, and seeing the comments and likes really strokes that dopamine center of my brain, so give Daddy his fix. In all seriousness, thank you to anyone who watches these, and big ups to SnortHogan, Atlas the Bookkeeper, all who share or retweet these videos. It really means a lot to me. As always, swole is the goal for a troll. Lift heavy, eat clean.